Welcome back to another episode of the Chronicles of Gameology. I'm your host, Neo K. Marcellus, and yeah, that's checkmate. An uncomfortable occurrence that consistently plays itself out right before our very eyes on a 24/7 basis is this harsh but sobering fact that what truly troubles and pains a man trains a man. This juicy and tantalizing pearl of wisdom was plucked right from the forbidden tree of knowledge and given to me by seasoned OGs who guided me in my early development in this street philosophy referred to as the concept called game. So on this episode of the Chronicles of Gameology, I'm going to showcase and highlight when this pearl of wisdom and its essence runs its course and fulfills its promise. Then a man's life will become stricken and developed into what seasoned OGs would recognize as being a mark. Check out this image I'm showing you now. A man who falls up under this category from a street perspective is a man who carries a load of excessive baggage based upon him being overly naive that others can easily spot and pinpoint, hence the term being a mark. Therefore, this cautionary pearl of wisdom has stretched its tentacles into a large segment of men who prescribe to a fairly recent point of view known as RedPill. Better yet, here's a movie clip that would summarize this point of view, if by any chance you are unfamiliar with this term and its use. So check out this short movie clip and we will pick it up on the other side.
Greetings. I am Morpheus, and I have been searching for you. It's time to make a choice that will define your future and the path you'll take, the red pill or the blue pill. One will show you the truth, and the other will let you stay in the comfort of the illusion.
Now, for those who still don't know, this clip is from a flick referred to as The Matrix, which came out way back in 1999. But from this movie, an exclusive male-dominated point of view morphed into a social-economic political sentiment that categorizes men who connect and sympathize with this movement as red pill, which is a man who has so-called disconnected himself from this matrix. The red pill point of view pretty much and for the most part focusing much of his attention on the rock'em sock'em knockdown and drag outs that takes place between men and women, surrounding the never a dull moment at times melee relationship dynamics. You see, men who prescribe to this frame of mind, the red pill point of view, comes from what is referred to from a street perspective in the street philosophy known as the catchy hand, which by the way, it categorizes men in a 4-tier hierarchical structure. This image I'm presently showing you is this philosophy and discipline known as the catching hand. But these men comes from what is referred to as level 1 and level 2 from on this image, who is considered to be unskilled practitioners of this craft known as the catching hand, which is taught as the quintessential method in the streets on being shrewd and savvy when it comes to dealing and interacting with the ladies. All the same, I want to emphasize that all men will go through some version of this level 1 and level 2 naive stage on dealing with females and their behavior. But how long a man will stay at these two levels has a lot to do with his environment. I gave the justifications as to why this is on another episode. Here's the link. Check it out once you get finished viewing this episode. But men who prescribe to this red pill point of view, they have a sort of arrested development or a fixation, which develops them into carrying a lot of excess baggage. This excess baggage is usually caused by men not having an understanding on how to put a woman on notice, which is a form of verbal jiu-jitsu taught by seasoned OGs when they bringing you up to speed and lacing you up on developing your own catching hand. But this knee-jerk reaction on not understanding and knowing how to implement this verbal jiu-jitsu has pushed a lot of men into joining this red pill community that makes them highly mistrustful of women, which leads them to looking at the female and male relationship dynamic as a house of mirrors. And to add salt into the wound, this house of mirrors has a floor which is tenacious and treacherous, which is a floor made out of quicksand, adding to the overall confusion of this house of mirrors, which fits the description for a lot of men when it comes to the female and male relationship dynamic. Now, peep game. A mark is a man who has taken on exclusively a heterodox kind of belief system. Analyze and check out this new image I'm now showing. And remember, when it comes to a belief, you can't legitimately spell the word without spelling the word lie. Now, most of you would catch that later on. But a man who is overly suspicious and mistrustful when it comes to women would take on this heterodox frame of mind and will become equivalent to what seasoned OGs taught me to think of when it comes to these sort of men, as being like some sort of magnifying glass. Now, let me explain. But first, lay your eyeballs on this newest image I'm now showing. Herein lies the problem. You see, a man shouldn't seek to know the world in itself. He should seek to know himself through the world. Therefore, when a man has exclusively taken on this type of heterodox frame of mind, then he will see everything through a sort of magnifying glass kind of perspective, where the man, in this case an individual who has taken on this red pill point of view, he becomes reduced and therefore insignificant, as this image is now indicating, because this magnifying glass, which in all actuality is this heterodox belief system, enlarges and reduces him and his mental capabilities, which would then dramatically magnify exponentially the issues of life and their complexity, as this image is indicating in a lighthearted type of way. Now, as for level 3 and the level 4 practitioners of the catching hand, they are held to a different standard, especially level 4 practitioners, because this level is considered to be the master level, given that a practitioner who is positioned at this particular level has developed the two massive requirements on securing this lofty position based upon the effectiveness and efficiency of their declarative knowledge and their street-I.Q, which is indicated on the side of this triangle on this image. But take a look at this brand new image I'm now showing. This standard I just mentioned, which is held over the heads of the men who choose to play the game at the level 3 and level 4 position of the catching hand, this can be conceptualized as being like a mirror, where men who have chosen to play at these two levels are then obligated to look at this world as if it is a gigantic mirror, in which they, being the observer and the onlooker, is burdened with the responsibility of what they witness being reflected back upon them. No matter where they can look, only their best representation is to be seen. The image in the mirror is a symbol of the observer, whereas at the same time the observer is the verification and meaning that gives power and agency back to the image. This is what is required to truly practice this street art and this philosophy referred to as the concept of game, and to implement that verbal jiu-jitsu, which is one of the many skill sets afforded to all practitioners who has taken their bumps and bruises to participate at this level. Nevertheless, let me now explain and give the details on how and why, when a man exclusively adopts this heterodox belief system, which is indicative of the red pill mindset, then this leads him into being a mark, a man who carries a load of excessive baggage that others can easily spot and pinpoint, using chess as a legitimate Trojan horse in order to kick off this explanation. But chess, it demands that you be efficient at playing the game of duality and correspondence, and so does life. But I get to that in a moment. But the way that this dualistic imperative plays out in the game of chess is when a weak square on the chessboard in the territory of your opponent is spotted by your keen observation. And because of this mishap, an opening now becomes a strong possibility for an outpost for one of your chess pieces to further cause havoc so you can decisively win the game. But this game of duality and correspondence can work against you as well. Going back to this red pill point of view and this heterodox belief system, remember the movie clip that I showed you earlier, where Keanu Reeves, the leading character in that movie, was offered a choice between the red pill or the blue pill, which falls into the concept of duality and correspondence I'm speaking about. First and foremost, let me break down and give the backstory on the adversary and the nemesis in this movie, which is this insatiable computerized monstrosity referred to as the Matrix. You see, I want you to picture or conceptualize for a moment that our minds can be like a piece of software that can be downloaded into a zombie-like body. This Matrix is this insatiable computerized overseer that injects and snatches input and output data into and out of all of its subjects, feeding them a steady dose of indoctrination and soul-depleting dogma. So from a street perspective, we often refer to individuals that this can be easily done to as bucket heads, meaning that their heads are wide open, so ideals and viewpoints, which is not theirs by the way, can be easily implanted and removed without any type of pushback. To put it mildly, the rabbit hole will continuously get deeper and deeper. So, peep game. When this matrix has a glitch in its analyzing process and it fumbles in its calculation, then it will spit out from a street perspective is what is referred to as a shady false positive or a shady false negative. You see, a shady false positive is a misfire in binary dualistic classification in which a logical assertion incorrectly indicates the presence of a condition, such as a characteristic or a factor, when in all actuality, the shit doesn't exist. And a shady false negative is the opposite, a blowback, where the logical assertion indicates the non-existence of a characteristic or factor, when in all honesty, the bullshit does exist. Pure and simple dualistic contemplation can be like a two-headed rattlesnake. If you're not careful on how you grip it and utilize it, then you will find yourself on the receiving end of a lot of pain. Because dualistic contemplation, which was the context Keanu Reeves was offered in that movie clip, The Matrix, where he was given the choice of taking the red pill or the blue pill. Dualistic contemplation has a tendency to operate at two extremes. On one end is the category that encompasses the concept of everything, and on the other end of the spectrum is the concept of negation or nothing, zilch, nada. When a man finds himself operating in this type of scenario, then a man will operate in contradiction. So women and everything else in his immediate surroundings and things he hasn't yet experienced, all of a sudden will behave like a house of mirrors with a floor made out of quicksand. This contradictive type state is where you will find a lot of men these days who prescribe to this red pill point of view and this heterodox belief system. A funny but at the same time depressing example of this contradictive type state can be observed when objectively fact-checking how religion and the concept of God and so-called evil behavior is viewed and conceptualized in today's overall society. So hold on tight. Remember, I just got through explaining how this two-headed rattlesnake, these antagonistic extremes play and operate in a lot of contemplation and logical assertion. Well, take this one on for size. This antagonistic extreme happens mainly because, on one end, being one thing means not being other things. Therefore, being one thing always means being incomplete and deficient. So a pragmatic example of this erroneous viewpoint of the concept of God and the so-called evil behavior. So if God is totally good, then it cannot be evil. And by the way, the word evil is an elementary and an unintelligent way of describing shady behavior, but that's a totally different show. But I'm going to use this term for dramatic purposes to hammer home my point. So back to this erroneous viewpoint of the concept of God and the so-called evil behavior. So if evil also exists in this world, then by logical default, God must be incomplete because it is the source of all good and not evil, right? So if this is going to be the case, therefore, to compensate for God's incompleteness, another shot caller, i.e. the devil, must be drummed up, interjected into the public zeitgeist. Then the logical conclusion would be a never-ending conflict, competition, and struggle for superiority between this God and his endless sparring partner, the devil. And as a seasoned OG always used to say, when shit is discombobulated and bluntly obvious and out of whack, he would say, silly rabbit, tricks is for kids. So a lot of men who prescribe to this red pill point of view, a good portion of them have this contemplative extremes in their social, economic, political viewpoints. And so from a gameologist and a street perspective, this can lead a man to being labeled a mark, a man who carries a load of excessive baggage that others can easily spot and pinpoint. The way this game of duality and correspondence is handled from a gameologist and a street perspective is that a practitioner must be able to peep out the good side of bad and the downside of up and everything in between. This gives the practitioner sight beyond sight. And let me be the first to say, this is not easy and it's not recommended for the faint of hearts. Therefore, all things considered, power, which is a necessary necessity, is needed to truly participate on this chessboard we call life. But power is not something to be discovered outside of oneself. It is something to be realized from within. So when a man fails to comprehend this obvious truth, then he becomes a casualty of this harsh and sobering fact that what troubles and pains a man trains a man. Now, that's checkmate. Thanks for watching. We'll definitely catch you on the next episode.